From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Governor Ducey declares a statewide health emergency, the new steps Arizona is taking to handle the growing opioid epidemic.
Plus, there's symbols of hate to some and bravery to others, the fate of Confederate monuments in Arizona.
And President Trump is piloting a new deal here in the U.S., his latest plan for air traffic control.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Blakely McHugh.
And I'm Tyler Finger. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, Arizona is in the midst of an opioid epidemic. Governor Doug Ducey signed an emergency declaration this morning as he addresses the growing number of opioid overdoses in the state. Last year, nearly 800 people died of an opioid overdose. That's a nearly 75% jump in just 4 years. The hope is today's declaration will help in that fight.
The declaration allows for information sharing, so we'll be able to look into whether their prescription, whether it is illegal, did they get a prescription recently that increased in dose? Did that put them at greater risk? Are they on co-prescribed drugs that put them at a greater risk for death? We'll be able to get into all of that data.
With this declaration, the Arizona Department of Health Services will be looking into ways to improve prescription practices in an effort to save lives. The Arizona Department of Health Services will report its findings to the governor by early September. Efforts will be coordinated between the state, local, and the private sector. A health emergency operations center will open this afternoon.
In a follow-up to Hooked RX, our 30-minute documentary on the prescription drug crisis in Arizona that aired in January, the Morrison Institute and Cronkite News conducted a poll in March representative of the state's population and demographics. They asked Arizonans about their experiences with prescription opioids. And many Arizonans believe these drugs are easy to get. Almost 60% say that it's either very easy or somewhat easy to access prescription painkillers. Nearly 11% said they got a prescription for an opioid from more than one healthcare provider. That would include drugs like hydrocodone or OxyContin. And ongoing pain is also a problem for almost 30% of adults in Arizona. How they deal with that pain varies. 35.8% said they use prescription painkillers. 37.5% answered other. That could mean marijuana, physical therapy, massage, or a number of other alternatives. Cronkite News reporter Lily Altavina asked people in the trenches of the battle against prescription opioid abuse about what these stats mean.
And then one day, when our older son was a teenager, we got a phone call from a woman that was a parent of one of his friends.
It's the phone call every parent fears.
Your son is potentially going to overdose. And we're just like, you must have called the wrong people. This that is not going on here. I mean, not your son is smoking, your son is, we saw your son with drugs. It's like your son is going to overdose.
A wake-up call for Kim Humphrey, a father who never thought his son Sean would struggle with drug addiction, let alone both of his sons.
It was his friends' parents had left some prescription medication, Percocet, in their medicine cabinet. And the next thing you know, they just thought it would be fun to try it.
In Arizona, 41.8% of adults know someone who has been addicted to prescription painkillers.
There's so much of it out there. They're so powerful, and we're still working on making sure people understand it's not aspirin. It's not to be toyed with.
The numbers show that prescription drug addiction has massive reach in Arizona. And officials say it's up to the state's residents to fight it.
Really, the best way is to dispose of the medication. Take it to a drop box.
Humphrey wants more people to start having frank discussions about drug abuse.
We lost about 58,000 people in the Vietnam War. We're losing more than that every year from drug overdoses in the United States.
Officials want to emphasize how important it is to dispose of prescription drugs when you're finished. Flushing them down the toilet is bad for the water supply. You can take them to drop boxes across the state.
Cronkite News is dedicated to covering the opioid crisis in Arizona and nationwide. Our documentary Hooked RX, From Prescription to Addiction highlights the problem of painkillers here in our state. You can watch the documentary and find resources for getting help online at hookedrx.com.
Many people don't know that southern Arizona was part of the Confederate territory during the Civil War. Today, there are monuments across the state in remembrance of the battles and lives lost. But some in the community feel those memorials are simply racist. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley is in the broadcast center with both sides of this issue.
Next Saturday will mark the 2-year anniversary of the Charleston church massacre that left 9 African Americans dead. It sparked a national conversation, including one here in Arizona, about Confederate memorials. Tonight, community leaders are calling for action from the governor.
It's a tool of terror, and we're asking, please remove these monuments.
Confederate monuments and memorials have become a hot-button issue around the country. Just weeks ago, New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu ordered all memorials in his city to be taken down. Now, Valley community activists and the NAACP want the same done here in Arizona.
We can't go through our daily lives honoring symbols of hate, symbols of separation, symbols of segregation designed to tear us apart and deepen our wounds.
But some see the monuments as simply remembering a part of American history.
History is a matter of perception, and often that perception is based on what is somebody is able to physically see.
There are 6 monuments on state land across Arizona, and more than 300 Confederate soldiers are buried here. But for Bolding, that time in history is for the books.
I completely believe that the Confederacy is a part of American history, and I believe that our children should know about the history of America. And I believe when you think about where our history is most prevalent, it's in social studies books and it's at the museums.
Again, having something to remember so as not to erase it completely from our historical consciousness as a country is my opposition to the issue.
Representative Bolding did send a letter to Governor Doug Ducey asking for executive action to have the monuments taken down. He said he'll keep fighting in any way necessary, including by introducing a bill at the legislature. But he hopes the governor will put pen to paper and remove any remnants of Confederate monuments from state land. In the broadcast center, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
In addition to his pledge to build a border wall, President Donald Trump in April threatened to withdraw the U.S. from the North American Free Trade Agreement. But at a meeting in Washington today, experts warn that such a move could backfire on the United States.
The Mexicans will retaliate, and that will lead to a sorrowful situation. It's the kind of thing that resulted in the Great Depression in 1929, when nations began to take economic reprisals against each other.
Arizona Senators John McCain and Jeff Flake have also said pulling out of NAFTA would negatively affect the state, but Beasley and others on the panel today at the Wilson Center's Mexico Institute said they are optimistic things will not move in that direction. They are urging Trump not to place any trade restrictions when renegotiating the free trade agreement in order to keep relations between the two countries peaceful. Despite sometimes heated rhetoric coming out of the White House about Mexico these days, the panelists said the relationship between the two countries remains strong, but the panelists said it's going to take work to keep it that way.
Arizona Democratic Senator Steve Farley is running for governor in the 2018 general election. Farley made his announcement on Twitter today. The Tucson senator wants to change some of Ducey's policies, especially on education. 2 other Democrats are running for the same office, and so far, no Republican is challenging Ducey.
President Trump is making the case for privatizing our nation's skies. The president says overhauling our air traffic control system would improve customer service by reducing costs, shortening wait times, and increasing technology.
For too many years, our country has tolerated unacceptable delays at the airport, long wait times on the tarmac, and a slowing of commerce and travel that costs us billions and billions of dollars in lost hours and lost dollars themselves.
We did some digging. The U.S. Department of Labor says there are 430 air traffic controllers employed in the state of Arizona.
Last Thursday, we asked you for your thoughts on President Trump's decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. Here are a few of the responses we received. Michelle Baer supports the president's decision, saying, quote, "I agree with everything Trump said in his speech today. It is about the fair treatment of the U.S. taxpayer. The other countries in the agreement let China keep polluting for 13 years, while we would be shutting down factories and losing jobs. I think climate change measures are ridiculous," end quote. And Marshall Koff does not agree with Trump. He says, quote, "We have one Earth and no alternative. No matter what belief people have on the climate change, if we do nothing, we will end up with nothing. I would rather see the world come together to try and solve a problem than to turn their backs to it," end quote. If you'd like to share your thoughts on any story, find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The Valley is making sure water safety continues to be a big priority.
Hitting the pool may be a great way to cool down on a hot summer day, but there are still important things to keep in mind. Coming up on Cronkite News, how your kids aren't the only ones you need to watch out for when taking a swim.
And stress tends to get the best of us, but a therapy center in the Valley shows us how we can keep things afloat.
I'm Scott Pelley, anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. In our changing media landscape, it is crucial for journalism education to ensure a commitment to the truth, unbiased reporting, strong ethics, unwavering fairness, and above all else, accuracy. These are the hallmarks of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. It's a place where students can innovate and transform the news industry while always upholding the values of the school's namesake. The Cronkite School at ASU, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule, where it's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Access interactive digital and printable program guides, repeat times, and full episode descriptions. Watch program previews of best bets for the coming week. Search by title to find your favorite shows. You can even add programs to your calendar and get email reminders when they're about to start. It's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule. When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online.
As the weather heats up, people are turning to pools to cool down, and every public pool has to be inspected before you can jump in. Madison Connor went along with those inspectors to see what they are concerned about this summer.
I went along with the Maricopa County Environmental Services Department as they inspected enclosures, gates, and most importantly, water quality levels to keep families safe in and out of the water.
Water safety is always a top concern here in Arizona, but this summer there is a new problem being added to the list: crypto. Crypto is a microscopic parasite and is the leading cause of waterborne illness. I got to join Inspector Zach Crater on a recent inspection, and his job is not only to check the safety of the facility, but also the water.
And then we'll also be checking the chemicals. We'll be checking the chlorine levels, the pH, and the alkalinity.
Last year alone, crypto cases more than doubled nationwide. Honor Health physician Janine Hinn says the easiest way to avoid the parasite is to take proper care of the water levels.
This reason, a lot of the viruses, bacteria, parasites that we do get exposed to are easily managed or killed or whatever, addressed if the chemical levels are up to par. There are some that can be easily filtered from the system. So I don't know if you've ever been to a water park and they have this break where you have to take 15 minutes, get out the pool. If they're doing that, they're doing the right thing. They're checking levels, they're checking their filtration system, checking their pumps, all of that sort.
The biggest thing facilities need to be doing is consistently adding chlorine to the water. Chlorine is eaten up by UV light. Inspector Zach Crater with the Maricopa County Environmental Services Department says even the average amount of chlorine is not enough to battle a crypto outbreak.
It doesn't take very much to get someone sick, but it's very difficult to get rid of. It's chlorine resistant. The CDC has recommendations out there. I believe it's if you think you have crypto, they will tell you you need to raise the chlorine levels in your pool up to 20 parts per million for 12.75 hours, I believe.
Public pools are checked once a month in order to ensure safety for all members, but it is up to the community as well to practice safe swimming protocols such as washing their hands before eating and not swallowing pool water.
Swimming is a great way to escape the heat this summer, but make sure you are following safe swimming practices to avoid illnesses like the cryptoparasite. In the broadcast center, Madison Connor, Cronkite News.
And whether it's hanging out by the pool, yoga, meditation, or massages, everyone has a way they like to relax. Cronkite News reporter Amanda Luberto shows us a new trend in relaxation.
I did it the first time and I was hooked. I'm very impressed on the level of the depth of relaxation you get from this.
At flotation therapy centers like True Rest in Arizona, clients enter, watch a short video while they relax, and then enter a flotation pod with over 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. The company says the Epsom salts help the clients to feel completely weightless during their experiences.
In flotation therapy, you float in this pod until you feel one with the water and as if you are floating in space. They call it therapy because it has therapeutic benefits for both the body, especially the muscles, and the mind.
According to a 2017 report by the American Psychological Association, at least 65% of Americans say they feel stress, and that number is on the rise. True Rest founder Holly Janicki says the Epsom salts help release toxins from your muscles and create zero gravity feel. Clients in the pod also experience sensory deprivation.
Pain relief has been huge for people, and overall stress relief, huge. Rest and recovery is great for athletes.
While some people are still skeptical, Janicki says that each float is different and up to the client. In Scottsdale, Amanda Luberto, Cronkite News.
And each pod is about the size of a queen-sized bed, and each session lasts around an hour. The summer heat brings dangerous temperatures.
With the number on the thermometer getting higher, people are needing more supplies. Coming up on Cronkite News, how the Salvation Army is helping the valley to cool things down.
Currently sitting at 99 degrees and under an excessive heat warning, but for how much longer? Your full 7-day forecast coming up.
About now.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in. Arizona State wins. Keeping one deep, and it is caught. Jalen Strong. Do you believe it?
An Arizona congressman is taking a stand against the regional director of the U.S. Wildlife Services. Congressman Paul Gosar is asking the services to fire regional director Benjamin Tuggle. Gosar claims that the Tuggle imposed wake restrictions without public opinion. Tuggle has been an employee for this federal agency for 38 years.
As we head into the tough summer months, it's important to stay safe and hydrated, but not everyone has the resources to do so. One local group is doing all it can to help out those who need it most. Every summer, the Salvation Army sets up heat relief stations at 14 different locations across the valley. The Salvation Army aims to combat the excessive heat warnings issued by the National Weather Service. Volunteers pass out iced water, sunscreen, hats, bandanas, chapstick, and more for those in our community from 11 to 5.
The most important thing that we can do to help people get through this time of year is provide the hydration and have the water. It's a precious commodity, and people need to have that to be healthy and to be able to deal with these excessive temperatures.
Interested in helping out, you can donate any of the items mentioned or volunteer your time to work one of the emergency heat relief stations throughout the summer.
Now it's time for a look at your valley forecast.
Emily, is it time to start frying eggs on the sidewalk yet?
You know, Tyler, I'm not sure it's quite that bad yet. We are currently looking at 99 degrees at the moment.
Now, the big weather story today is, of course, the excessive heat warning that we are under. This was issued by the National Weather Service yesterday, and it will be in effect until Wednesday at 8 p.m. Now, what this means for us is that we need to keep an eye on the elderly, our kids, our pets, and of course, keep yourself hydrated. And with that, we have got a high today of 107 degrees. We set a record of 113 back in 2016. And we will likely hit that high today somewhere between 4 and 6 p.m. By midnight tonight, we will hit a 90. Our 7-day forecast, we've got some clouds rolling into the state Wednesday. We will hold strong on those triple digits through the end of this week, but by Sunday and Monday of next week, we will be down into the high 90s. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Emily Bloom.
People often turn to friends and family for support during difficult times.
But one group of women are helping each other out by rowing together.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how this team of boat racers are using teamwork to power through a shared struggle.
Scott Pelley, anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. In our changing media landscape, it is crucial for journalism education to ensure a commitment to the truth, unbiased reporting, strong ethics, unwavering fairness, and above all else, accuracy. These are the hallmarks of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. It's a place where students can innovate and transform the news industry while always upholding the values of the school's namesake. The Cronkite School at ASU, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule, where it's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Access interactive digital and printable program guides, repeat times, and full episode descriptions. Watch program previews of best bets for the coming week. Search by title to find your favorite shows. You can even add programs to your calendar and get email reminders when they're about to start. It's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule. When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online.
The Phoenix Desert Dragons are a non-traditional support group. Danielle Lincecum met the boating team in Tempe, which is made up of women who have battled or are currently battling breast cancer.
Dragon boating is an ancient Chinese tradition and features teams of paddlers in 40-foot boats. Research has shown the sport can reduce symptoms and improve health.
Paddles up and go!
Every Thursday night and Sunday morning, you can find breast cancer survivor Melissa Adams on Tempe Town Lake coaching the Phoenix Desert Dragons.
I'd always been very active, and all of a sudden my lifestyle had changed and I couldn't do the things that I was able to do. I was at my doctor's office and saw a postcard that had dragon boating on it, and I thought, I'll go try that.
Adams just finished her first year coaching in Phoenix after joining the team following a second place finish at the International Breast Cancer Dragon Boat Festival.
It was very, very powerful, and just watching all these women that have had the same experience that I did come together in that boat and just not really have cancer be the focus.
Paddlers, are you ready? We have alignment. Attention, please.
According to the Leonard Davis Institute of Health at the University of Pennsylvania, the connection between breast cancer survivors and dragon boating began 21 years ago with a Canadian doctor. In putting together and evaluating a dragon boat team, Dr. Don McKenzie found that rigorous upper body exercise reduced the risk of lymphedema, a painful fluid buildup in the arms and shoulders common in breast cancer survivors.
Sometimes you don't even talk about breast cancer, but it's nice to look next to somebody and say, oh, were you ever on this med, or, you know, and kind of talk about things, but it's not the focus.
We're all here to support each other and to show that having had cancer or have cancer is not a death sentence, that you are still strong and you can do things, and it's just very motivating.
We want to really just find a new normal. What I do try to impress upon the paddlers is, you know, first and foremost, you're athletes.
The Desert Dragons are in the midst of fundraising to compete in the International Breast Cancer Commission's Dragon Boat Festival, being held in Florence, Italy next year. Motivated by Dr. Mackenzie's research, Dr. Catherine Schmitz conducted her own study and published an article in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2009. The article says that the strenuous physical activity reduces the risk of developing lymphedema in women at highest risk by up to 70%. Dr. Schmitz says that physical activity should be prescribed to all cancer patients. I'm Danielle Lincecum, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, how the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement could impact the state. And Treasurer Jeff DeWitt updates the Arizona Land Trust Fund that goes to education.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, we travel to Venezuela for an inside look at a country descending into chaos. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.